So we have Nike earnings, of course, the Nike stock, and we also have consumer sentiment, which is changing this week. It's a really, really crazy market out there right now with stocks. Of course, we have the Fed acting hawkishly. They're saying they're going to be increasing interest rates. You know what that means? Warren Buffett says, look, interest rates are gravity to the stock market. And so when you have low gravity, it means that those stocks can go real high. And so if the Fed is saying that they're going to increase the gravity in the stock market, pretty simply put, it means that stocks are going to be going down. And so after U.S. stocks staged a rebound last week in the wake of the Federal Reserve's much anticipated monetary policy decision, investors this week will look ahead to a somewhat quieter slate of corporate earnings and economic data releases. One of the most closely watched earnings reports will come after market close on Monday from Nike. As one of the few companies to report earnings that cover performance for this year, Nike's fiscal third quarter results will provide an update as how the multinational corporation performed in the first month of 2022 against a backdrop of an ongoing pandemic and war in Ukraine. Yeah, obviously. I mean, we have so much going on here. We have Putin saying, hey, we're just going to take over this country, okay? We have the pandemic that just ended. We have CPI data reports coming out at 7.9%. Inflation is going up. We have interest rates that are going to be going up soon. A lot of stuff that's going on right now, And, just some advice to you, my humble advice that's been helping me, get a lot of work done. I don't know what you do, but I run a few businesses myself, small businesses. I'm a young person, but we have big ambitions for the future. But what's been helping me is just to not watch the news every day, or at least limit your time on the news. You don't have to watch the full, hourly news report. Just look at, the bullet points of what's going on. I don't think you have to know every single person that's dying in Ukraine, every single, hour by hour. You don't have to know every single company report unless you're trading or something like that, which I don't do. You're probably going to be much better off if you just put that mental energy into your work or whatever type of creative endeavor you do, or your family, or whatever you find valuable in your life. I found this thing from, I know, it's not good to talk about Joe Rogan right now because it's a lot of controversy around him at the moment that I'm recording this podcast or this video or whatever you want to call it. But I saw this interview with him, and obviously he's a very successful person with his podcast sold for 100 million, and that's only for 3 years. So, I mean, if you extrapolate that, that's an income of $33 million a year. And so, hey, if that's better than you, then maybe you should, learn something from the guy. And so what he said that I found really, really valuable and interesting was he said that you only have a certain amount of bandwidth, in your brain. So much energy, right? So much gasoline in the tank every day. And so if you put all that energy and that mental focus into watching the news or getting mad at someone on Twitter or arguing with somebody in the comments, or just stuff that's not really getting you towards a goal, it's just wasted energy, right? And so if you can take that energy that you're focusing on, oh, I hate Putin, or oh man, why are they, whatever type of stuff that's getting you all mad on the news or in your life or whatever, or thinking about, what's this person thinking about me that I'm making these videos right now, right? I used to have those thoughts like, oh, what are my friends and family going to think? Like, who cares, right? It's taking your mental energy that I could be focused on making some good work right now or doing my business. And so if you can take as much bandwidth or energy or gasoline in the tank that you can and just focus it into just doing the work, you're probably going to get more work done. And it's that simple. And so I think that it would really help you, maybe. It's definitely helped me a lot. And so that is some seriously good advice that I could probably give you. Just try it out for a day. See how it works. Chances are it will. Anyways, let's get back to this story. So Nike shares have dropped more than 20% for the year to date through Friday's close, underperforming the S&P 500 more than 6%, which has declined more than 6% over the same period. So If you do the math on that, Nike's went down 14% more than Nike. So that's tough. So investors have grown wary of the stock, heavily exposed both to international headwinds and the ongoing supply chain crisis. Nike joined a number of other US based companies earlier this month in announcing it would pare back its business with Russia. Honestly, I also run a business that similar to Nike. I'm not going to go exactly into it because one of you people are going to start trying to compete with me, which I'm fine with. Let's compete. But, we'll crush you. Anyways, what was I thinking? Yeah, so, obviously transportation prices have been going up. We've seen supply chain issues, so people are just taking longer to produce products. And so that's been going on, so definitely. And so, anyways, so quote, we expect the focus in Q3 of 2022 to be one, supply chain, including inventory on hand versus in transit, China, where political backlash and COVID lockdowns persist, 3, wholesale distribution and plans to streamline it further, and last, demand, which has stayed elevated in North America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So although the near term for Nike is choppy until inventory flow normalizes, Nike should continue to benefit from enhanced connections with consumers through its membership program, high full price selling, greater use of data across the organization, and more integrated strategic wholesale model through the One Nike Marketplace initiative. Yeah, I think that personally, I've never even heard of the Nike membership thing, so probably not as successful as it should be because I've never heard about it. But maybe you do know about it, and I'm just under a rock, which is very possible. Anyway, so back in December during Nike's last earnings day and call, the company said it expected to see third quarter sales grow by a low single digit percentage. So, by low, they're thinking 2, 3, 4%. And the full year of sales to grow by mid single digits, so 4, 5, 6% is the number that they're expecting sales to grow in 2022, which is obviously not good when you have inflation at 7.9%. So yeah, that's difficult. So anyways, Nike is expected to deliver sales of $10.6 billion for its quarter ending in February according to Bloomberg data. This would represent growth of 3% compared to the same period last year. Adjusted earnings per share, which is also known as EPS. So, for example, you buy a share for however much money, $10, and then for every share that you buy for $10, you might earn, the money that you're getting. Might be 7 cents, right? Which would be 7%. Of a full share back a year. So EPS are expected to reach 72 cents a share compared to 90 cents per share last year. Sales in China, one of Nike's key markets, are anticipated to rise back above $2 billion after dipping below that threshold in the fiscal second quarter as COVID cases in China impacted consumer mobility and spending, meaning people were locked in their house. They're not going out shopping for some new Nike shoes, right? In December, Nike Chief Financial Officer, CFO, Matthew Friend, said the company was growing, quote, increasingly confident that the supply will normalize heading into fiscal year 2023. For many other companies, however, supply chain concerns have remained top of mind. According to a report from FactSet, 358 S&P 500 companies cited, quote, supply chain, end quote, during earning calls for the fourth quarter, with the figure coming in well above the 5-year average of 187. So basically, supply chain is being mentioned in many of the largest companies' earnings reports, right? So obviously there's something going on with it. It's obviously an issue. And it's an issue for almost double the companies that it on average is, so that's not very good. We're now going to be going over consumer sentiment, right? So how are consumers thinking about the market? On the economic data front, this week's Consumer Sentiment Report, due out from the University of Michigan on Friday, will offer an updated snapshot on the state of the consumer amid soaring inflation. And this is something that I've really been talking a lot about. I think that inflation is a huge issue. 7.9% CPI, consumer price index. So we've seen gas prices go crazy. I'm sure you've noticed gas prices have been going up. And on top of that, we have the Ukrainian crisis where Russia is just kind of rolling into Ukraine and killing everybody. I don't mean to sound like I'm making a joke out of that. That's very serious and that's very bad. And that can turn into a big issue if Russia keeps going, right, into NATO territory, which I think is very possible. But obviously that is going to increase the price of gas even more because that's going to increase the oil prices for the U.S. because the U.S. buys oil from Russia. Like, I don't think the U.S. fracks, I believe is a correct word, but I don't think that we produce a lot of oil. Obviously we do out of Texas, and I also believe Alaska. I think those are the two main states that we get a lot of oil from. But we're an importer of oil, and I'm sorry, Elon Musk, but not everybody has a Tesla. A lot of people drive cars. I'm sure that you probably drive a car, a gas car, I mean. And chances are that gas prices are going to be going up because if we're having a trade war with Russia and we're saying, hey, look, we're going to increase sanctions, which means, we're going to kind of like just target you and increase all your prices. And we're going to take all of our companies out of Russia. I think we're at 70 or 80% of all of our companies are out of Russia right now, our major companies, McDonald's and Apple. Look, all I gotta say is prices are going to be going up for oil, and that's it's going to hurt the average person, Anyways, so the institution's revised survey of consumer index is expected to come in unchanged for the preliminary March index at 59.7, the lowest since 2011. Such a result would solidify the deterioration in consumers' assessments of current and future conditions. So this is really smart people talk for people who are going to feel better. They're thinking that the CPI is not going to go up. So basically, University of Michigan is saying, look, we think inflation is not going to continue rising, and this is going to make people feel more confident in the economy. That's really all it means. Anyways, earlier this month, consumers said they expect inflation to rise by 5.1 in 2022, marking the highest expected rate since 1981, according to the University of Michigan. More importantly, the Consumer Sentiment Index will serve as an indicator of whether declining optimism may ultimately lead to a tangible drop in consumer spending. That is smart people talk for basically people are going to be less confident that the economy is going to be strong. They think that inflation is going to go up. And then what are people going to do? They're not going to buy stuff, right? Because they're going to be fearful. They're going to be like, hey, what if prices start going up on everything? Well, I should probably, they're not going to actually save more money. They're probably going to actually spend more money, right? Because they're going to, this actually has it wrong. If people think inflation is going to go up, they're not going to save money because they're going to say, hey, my money's going to be less and less valuable as time goes on and inflation deteriorates the value of that money. What they're going to do is they're going to buy in bulk things that they think will not go bad, right? So, you have razor blades, right? People are going to buy those in bulk, right? They go to the store every month and they see the price going up a lot. They're going to say, why should I save money when these things are going up in price that I buy? Let me just buy a lot of them so I can use them for a year because then I'll save money. So whoever wrote this article, I'm sorry, Yahoo Finance, but you're wrong about that. People are not going to save money if they, historically the consumer sentiment would be fearful because they think that there's going to be, really bad times ahead in terms of like a depression, right? During a depression, money is scarce. It's a contraction of money, and so people want to save money. But during an inflationary time, it's an expansion, and so people don't want to save money. They want to spend money quickly. But of course, if the Fed is going to increase interest rates, that would be a contraction because they're contracting the money supply. So in that case, people would be saving money and trying to contract their spending.